Pretty quick and simple video here, just going over new custom presets for patch 0.4. Please like and subscribe if you find this information useful. Let me know in the comments down below if you want to see a specific gun build or preset that caters to a specific playstyle. I'll even make a short about it. Make sure you check the timestamps in the timeline to skip through to see what specific class you want to play. Assault can pretty much now run any weapon, and it usually only has access to high tier ammo. This makes guns like the MDR, the 7.62 variant, very strong because now you can shoot M80s. The most important attachments here are the SE5 foregrip, so make sure you can unlock this foregrip as fast as possible. Usually it's black, I just have a camo on it so it's white. Then for the muzzle, we want this CAC QDC 7.62 muzzle, and then we throw on the PRS QDC silencer on top of that, and then it makes it very strong, very controllable, and you can really just chest shot people a lot. I run U-lock for more protection. For armor, I have a tier 4 plate in the front and then a tier 3 plate in the back, and you cannot have any side plates as assault with this armor. Then for meds, I always try to run a Salua because you can med your chest with one use, even if it's at just 2 HP. For my main pain med, I'm pretty much always using Propitol, and then I use the 3BTG. This helps with giving more strength so you can run faster and gives you stamina recovery so you can run for a longer period of time. And I have the AHF1 stim, which stops all heavy and light bleeds and prevents them for 60 seconds. I have these two meds enabled for auto use for just checkpoint and last hero because I like to get in the habit of popping my stims at the start of every team fight or blast gang round because it gets me into the habit of stimming before I get into fights, and that allows me to remember that when I go play main game of Tarkov. The 7.62 MDR really excels at fort, block, and all the highlighted maps that I have listed here. It doesn't really do too well when it comes down to very close range fights because fast fire rate weapons typically will put down people a little bit faster than the MDR. Even though it's a really high powered round, you can still be close range with it and do really well as long as you have a laser. For something more close to mid range, I recommend the MCX. Again, same setup for headset, helmet, armor. When it comes to the gun, we want best in slot. So the main things to note of is the pistol grip. So we want to go for the Grawl S. Just want to level up the weapon and then eventually unlock the 12-inch. I always use the Maul infrared laser because it only has a 1.5 ergo detriment. And when we're setting up our silencer combo, we want to make sure that we're selecting the T-lock first, this little piece. And next we're selecting the actual suppressor itself. Once we have the suppressor selected, there's 3 different muzzle brakes that we can put on underneath the T-lock and the suppressor. We want to make sure we're selecting the TBP 7.62 or again the 2-port brake muzzle brake. This gives us the most recoil control. Make sure on the top up here we're selecting one of the 9 Metascore front sights. These are just iron sights, but they give +1 ergo, so it's just free ergo. Whatever sight you want to choose. Then we want to make sure we select the ARE buffer tube. You could even unlock the red one. Red one is slightly better and is best in slot. I just go for the ARE because that's what I typically use in the main game of Tarkov. We want to make sure we have this SIG FKSA, the knuckle stock adapter, so we can connect the ARE buffer tube. And then on the buffer tube, we want to select usually the Daniel Defense collapsible buttstocks. I just go for the black version, and then we want the thicker, the TCS 20, because it gives us more recoil reduction. You can use this gun in kind of mid-range fights. So for people that are further away, you just kind of want to burst your shots as much as possible. And for close range fights, you just want to unload as much as possible as long as you're controlling your shots. Even if you need to burst when it comes to closer range fights, it's still not a bad thing, as long as you're accurately hitting those headshots, because that's what this gun relies upon. When making our magazines, I layer the rounds. So I do the top round as CBJ, and then the round underneath that, I choose the M62s. These are tracer rounds. When we have them in the loop like this, layered on top of one another, it will alternate the rounds one after the other. You could load the magazine that way. And I have 3 mags layered like this, where the round alternates from a very high pen round to a decent mid-tier pen round, but both deal pretty good damage because you're spitting the rounds out so fast. Usually it can shred people pretty quickly. This gun excels on maps like Fort, Chop Shop, Bay 5, and Equator, mostly because you can take a lot more mid to close range fights. You can pick your battles a little bit easier on those maps, so the MCX just shreds when you get up in people's faces. Moving on to Enforcer, I really enjoy the MK43, or in other words, the M60. Again, we have the same med setup, and then for armor, I have a tier 5 plate in the front and a tier 3 plate in the back, just in case anybody decides to shoot me from the back, I can at least tank a few shots. For the helmet, we're running the Vulcan 5. The Vulcan, you can put, it's a tier 5 helmet, and then you can modify it and you can add in this face shield, which is tier 4 armor. It covers quite a lot of your face, but the main part of this class that is very important is the new earpieces or earbuds that you get in the battle pass at level 20. We go to level 20 here, we get these earbuds. Now these are basically like Comtac 4s, but you can use them inside of helmets. Inside of this helmet that I have, basically I'm still able to hear people like I would without a crazy condensed helmet on, because you're able to hear and just tank tons of shots. This class is very strong, especially if you push without any concern if it's a good push or not. And I use the newer sight here. It's like a hollow sight. It's kind of cool. It has a pretty decent reticle. Then I just try to throw on as much ergo as I possibly can. The muzzle brake that gives a little bit of recoil reduction. It's red brake. Then I just throw on the SE5 just to try to reduce as much recoil as possible, going for as much ergonomics as possible as well. Ammunition, I run 38 rounds of TCW in the bottom of the mag, and the rest of it is M80s at the top. So 62 rounds of M80s. We're running around and using this weapon. You can kind of just like tap shot people that are further away. Up close, I mean, you can just really spray off if you want to. Doesn't really matter too much how many shots you're actually hitting accurately, because you're shooting M80s so fast. Even if you're hitting chest shots, you're still really gonna shred people with this weapon. This is great for maps like Equator, Chop Shop, Bay 5, typically kind of closer to mid-range fights, mostly just because the armor can tank so many shots that you're able to flank people and just really muffle a lot of noise with the LMG because it's so loud. Chop Shop is really where this class shines though. Scout used to be one of my favorite presets and classes to use, but now that they nerfed it so much, they gave it better armor, really limited it to only submachine guns. I don't necessarily like it as much. The only one I can really recommend is this MPX class and also the SR3M. This is really the best gun to use. I just don't have enough Lego medals to unlock it, but I would definitely use the SR3M if you're able to save up 3 Lego medals for it. It just shreds really quick, and it's just such a good versatile weapon. If you don't have that, the MPX I think costs a few 100,000 rubles, but you can still unlock it relatively easily. And then for the armor, just make sure you're running some kind of body armor that allows you to have the tier 5 plate in the front and a tier 4 in the back. Something that gives a little bit of neck protection as well is usually really good. We want that Grawl pistol grip as quick as we can because it gives us a lot of ergo. You could use any other pistol grip that's just best in slot that you have available. We have this knuckle stock adapter in the back here again. I actually just go for the Viper PDW because it gives a lot of recoil reduction, but the ergonomics you get with this stock just really gives a very big boost how fast you can move with this weapon. Then I chose the Midwest 14-inch M-Lock handguard. Main reason is because you can stack just tons of these little +1 ergonomic M-Lock mounts that you can put all over the weapon, and I just put them in as many slots as possible, and then I have the laser on the other side just out of the way. The barrel is a little unique because you can actually put on this 6.75-inch barrel, and then it allows you to have this really long kind of silencer suppressor that attaches onto here, so it sits nicely inside of the handguard that you're using. Make sure that you put the CAC front sight on the very tip of the gun. Again, it's one of these +9 iron sights that go on the very tip of the handguard. Make sure you're putting it at the back of the weapon as well. And then I'm using this new hollow sight again, using the 41 round magazines, and then we just stack them full of as much PvP as possible, just because it's the best round that we can possibly use for this weapon. This gun is honestly good for long ranges if you can burst your shots really well. It's good for mid and close ranges. But this gun heavily relies on making sure that you can hit your shots as accurately as possible pretty much all the time. Due to its muzzle velocity being at 506, so 506 meters a second, when we're going to hit shots at a very far distance like on Bull, the gun really loses a lot of its power because you have to lead your shots a little bit more. Even though it has a very fast fire rate of 850, you're still going to struggle hitting those really far off targets. This gun is pretty good for Fort, Block, Equator, Chop Shop, and Bay A5. Mainly the reason that is because you're able to have these mid-range fights. People aren't too far away to where you have to lead your shots too much most of the time. As long as you're trying to stick a little bit closer, let your armor take a little bit of the damage while you're playing, just trying to beam people's heads as much as possible. Then for a marksman, I think it's one of the best guns in the game, the SR-25. Very, very good for mid to long range fights. When it comes down to the weapon, again, we want to go for that Grawl pistol grip. And then we want the SC5 for the foregrip. We want the same muzzle combo. We have the DC762, so this muzzle adapter. Then we want to use the PRS QDC for the front. We also want to make sure that for the foregrip, we're using this LCH7 12.5 inch foregrip. This gives a really good ergo. Make sure you're putting these M locks on as often as possible because it just gives +1 ergo for free, and they cost only 1 metascore. Make sure we have the iron sight on the back for more ergo. Whatever sight that you want to use. You can even use a high power voodoo, which actually I'm going to do right now. I prefer the voodoo quite a bit. It's just a very versatile sight. And we want to make sure that we're using the just slightly better ergonomic charging handle. And then we want to go for the same thing with the stock. We want to make sure that we're starting with the ARE buffer tube, and then we're putting on the Daniel Defense stock along with the TCS-20. That's pretty much the entire gun build. One detriment to the voodoo is how much of the screen it takes up on the right side there, as you can see. But if you're able to run around, you can aim down sights really quickly. And I like that you can see as you're adjusting your variable zoom, how you can switch to see kind of where your sight is and if you're more zoomed in or not. Even if people are close range, you can usually kind of just try to pointer fire as much as possible, but it still makes it to where it's not like crazy accurate because we don't have a laser on this weapon. So we want to try to avoid those fights as much as possible. Stick to mid range, making sure that you're peeking out. You can just kind of space your shots, you know, depending on how far the target is. So that way you can make sure you're hitting your shots accurately. Because we have 3 full mags of M61s, they're very high damage, high penetrating rounds. And we have 18 rounds in this last magazine. You're able to just really shred people on pretty much any map. When it comes down to the maps that it's good at, we got Block, Bowl Equator, Skybridge, Air Pit, Bay 5. Can kind of use it on Chop Shop. It's a super versatile weapon just because of how good it handles and how high damage the round is. Where if you use it on Ford or Chop Shop, it's still going to do pretty well. You just want to make sure that you're taking slightly mid-range fights compared to close range, which Chop Shop and Ford really are a little bit more condensed in the main part of the maps. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'm going to be playing a lot of Arc Raiders, so stop by the stream if you want to see me play it. I'll start making more custom preset videos with the new patch updates and changes to class systems. I appreciate you guys and have a good one.